And welcome to today's NJC's 10-minute takeaway. This is where we will try and cram as much information in as we can into a 10-minute workshop. So I'm Tom Stenson, audit trainer and head of training for the NJC. And today I'm joined by Alan Hiscox, who is Director of Road Safety for the British Horse Society. Thanks for joining us, Alan.
No, thanks, Tom. Thanks for the invite. It's great to be able to talk about the whole Dead Slow campaign and how to pass horses safely.
Fantastic. So, as Alan's explained there, this workshop will be all about how to pass horses and horse riders safely. And our 10 minutes starts now. So reading through your campaign, Alan, I was quite surprised on some of the statistics that were put in there. Would you be able to explain some of those for us, please?
Yeah, we keep statistics around the UK of road incidents, include where cars have passed horses, and unfortunately, there were 3,380 incidents on the roads last year. 66 horses were killed, and 86 were injured. But on top of that, 3 equestrians were killed. And 94 riders were injured. So it is a shocking statistics, but one that we think, with our Dead Slow campaign and messages to drivers and trying to inform, involve, guide and persuade drivers how to pass horses safely, we can really make a difference and make it safer for not only horses, horse riders and carriage drivers, but also drivers themselves.
Yeah, it's a funny one actually, because this is a conversation that I have quite a lot with learners and instructors. Because where I'm based, we are quite a rural area. And I can almost guarantee to go and find horses and horse riders in some of my areas. But I appreciate that some driving instructors might not have that sort of availability. And so, it's one of those things where I think trying to give people the information, even if we can't go and necessarily practice it. And I'm sure lots of driving instructors are aware of what it tells us in the highway code. But what's your guidance then for instructors specifically on how they might give guidance to their learners?
Yeah, we understand that you may not see a horse on the road when learners are out. But our messages are quite simple, and they are a behavioural change technique. If I see a horse on the road, and that is not just a ridden horse, that could be a carriage horse, or if you're in Dartmoor or the New Forest, near the ponies down there. So if I see a horse on the road, then I will slow down to a maximum of 10 miles an hour. I will be patient. I won't sound my horn or rev my engine. And then when safe to do so, I will pass wide and slow, at least 2 meters distance, and then drive slowly away. And in fact, those messages are now included in the highway code. And I was involved in the highway code review group alongside with the cyclists and the pedestrian groups. So as part of that group, I was really keen to get those messages in. And they will, if they are sort of included and spoken about to learner drivers, they will make safe passing easier. And the other one that I'm really, really keen to get out there as well is it does say in the highway code that if you can't meet those clearances, then stay behind the horse or the cyclist or the pedestrian, rather than try and squeeze past on the rural roads. So it is quite clear messaging, and we have it on our website. And I know there's some resources that are available to driving instructors as well, which we can include at the ends. But yes, those 4 messages included in the highway code, and they really are going to make a difference.
Yeah, all of those are the types of things that I'd explain to my learners. And one of the areas that I think often crops up is what you've just mentioned there, is that restraint, is knowing that it's not safe to pass at the moment. I'm going to be patient. I can hold back. I did have a really interesting one, and I know it's very specific and we probably have to be there. But I was with a learner a couple of weeks ago and we're passing a horse. And the horse rider actually waved us on. And the pupil said to me, would it be okay? I can see that it's safe, but should I trust what the horse rider is saying there? And I thought that was a great conversation to have between myself and the learner. Is there any guidance that you would give to horse riders about sort of beckoning on vehicles?
Well, our advice is actually don't beckon
Yeah.
and let the driver make their own decision. Yes, obviously at the elevated position, we can see things. And it also, but what it says actually in the highway code is heed rider signals, and those signals are to slow down or actually to stop. Now, I know they are not legally enforceable, but
Yeah.
maybe the rider has seen something and is actually asking for the driver to stop or also to slow down. So there's lots of things that riders and drivers can have a sort of relationship with if they look at the driver and the driver is looking at the rider and seeing what they can do. But there's lots of other things as well that I would like to let learner drivers know about horses, because their eyesight obviously is very different to ours, and they see things in a different way. They've got binocular sight all the way round, apart from that little area at the back. That's the blind area. We say kids don't walk behind, so their eyesight is set up as a flight animal to notice things. So we see a puddle, the horse might see a sinkhole. We see the sparrow in the side of the road, the horse might see a pterodactyl. So there's lots of things that can affect the horse with their eyesight. And there's the other thing, as again, this is in the highway code, about the three brains working. There's the rider's brain, there's the driver's brain, but don't forget the horse's brain. And they are working obviously different to us. They can move incredibly quickly. And a horse, and I don't want to anthropomorphize this too much, but they're working on a risk assessment that's thousands and thousands of years old. And if they see something they're not happy with, they're either going to reduce that risk by moving away from it, remove that risk by kicking out, or avoid it by turning around and going the other way. But those four messages that I mentioned right at the very start, they help the horse accept that risk and then slow down to that 10 miles an hour to 2 meters distance. Then if the horse does react to something, there's plenty of time, you're going slow enough and have that distance, so hopefully there is no contact between the car and the horse.
And I think the interesting bit there was you've mentioned a few times about giving that 2 meter safety. I read in your campaign that it was quite a high cause that vehicles were getting too close to horses, and horse riders. And I know this happens a lot with cyclists as well, but I just find that so odd and strange that car drivers would be getting that close to, let alone a pedestrian or a horse.
Yeah, no, it's 85% of those 3,300 incidents are because vehicles are passing too fast or too close. And we also know that 3,300 incidents is a very low figure, because we know that perhaps 1 in 5 riders report incidents to us. So it's 15,000 incidents out there. And yeah, if we can get drivers, to adhere those messages, then those incidents are gonna come down, and it's going to be safe for all. And those highway code messages, they've been out for nearly 2 years now,
Yeah,
but we found that very, very few drivers know about them. We've done some events, some major motoring events at Goodwood or at Silverstone, and about 80% of the drivers that we've spoken to, they may know that there's been some highway code changes, but they certainly don't know the specifics relating to horses. But one thing horse riders have said is the younger drivers tend to be more careful now when passing horses, because of the effect, hopefully, that driving instructors have had on their students, and they are aware of those that specific guidance and the hierarchy as well that came in with the highway code. About those that are in charge of vehicles that can cause the greatest harm in
yeah.
an event of a collision bear the greatest responsibility. To take care and reduce that risk they pose to others. I think that's a really critical one as well. Nobody can argue with the pedestrians and the cyclists. Sorry, the pedestrians, disabled, and children at the top, and then we've got the cyclists, horse riders, and motorcyclists in the next level. I mean, that is really an important change to the highway code. So, as time goes on, we are hoping that those incidents are going to drop further and further, because more and more drivers are taking that care and heeding the highway code advice, but also our dead slow advice.
And I'm pleased to hear that younger people are tending to heed that information a little bit more. And I'd like to think it was to do with driving instructors being proactive, but we'll kind of hold it there just in case.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that's a really good thing for us as instructors because hopefully that's working. Hopefully it's a good thing for the British Horse Society as well. Um, other than the bits we've kind of touched on, or we can highlight that in the last few seconds we've got here, what would be the main takeaways that you could give to road users around horse safety?
Well, remembering that they are flight animals and they can react and move incredibly quickly. And I was in the mounted police for 30 odd years, and even police horses may react to something. So it's that 2 meters distance, that 10 miles an hour maximum speed really is going to make a huge difference to the safety of horses, riders, but also occupants in the car and drivers.
Brilliant. Well, that's the end of our 10 minutes, Alan, and thank you very much for joining us today.
Thank
If
you.
anybody would like to know any more, there will be links in the comments below, including some of the areas that Alan has spoken about today.